I'm here to talk to you about Metanet identity, not just ID. Metanet.id is a separate thing I'm doing on the side thing. Identity is important. Alias and Paymail is the first step towards the proper identity on-chain. And minor ID is a step towards this as well. When you have identity on-chain, and you are proving yourself to the world and to your businesses and other users, and then you can interact a hell of a lot more with more of the global trade. And businesses can interact with you. I was talking with Mark earlier as a brief example. I'm not going to go on about Alias and Paymail because everyone should know enough about that, and there are videos. There's an excellent video by Darren, who we'll talk about later, I suppose, which basically explains how to get your own Paymail. And your Paymail, as you should all know, but I'm doing this for the camera a little bit, is your initial identity on the Metanet. That is your name. It can be your name, it can be your nickname, it can be your alias of some kind, hence why it's also called Alias. When you have your Paymail or your alias, which by the way can be on your own domain name, and that is important as well. It doesn't have to be moneybutton.com, it can be anywhere. When you have that, and you can start attaching your own identity to this, and then it becomes a hell of a lot more powerful. When you have, say, like, say if you go into a shop for example, and you've gone in, and you've got a receipt, you want to get some money back because you didn't like the item you brought, and if the shop is actually operating in Bitcoin properly, and then you can say to them, hey, yes, you know, I brought this item, here's my receipt. Your receipt is on-chain if the shop has done their job properly, and the receipt is also to your name. A lot of times, shops, when they try and solve your receipt, they'll ask your name, you know, they'll say, did you really buy this item? They kind of flop it a lot and they let you off, but really they're supposed to tell that you brought it. You brought the item, you haven't just picked up the receipt from the street outside and trying to come in and get some free money. With identity done on-chain properly, it makes it a lot easier for shops. If they have a simple app, or just look at what's on-chain, I mean, you can do it now, they can look at what's on-chain if they've done the receipt properly in an opt return. They can look at what's on-chain or look at some advanced app, which is a business waiting to happen. And they can look at that app and say, oh, yeah, I can see that you Mark, or anyone else, Rob, you brought such and such item. I can see that. Now, the next step, which makes this really, really useful for businesses, all businesses right now, is returns, return factor. Have you ever been to a shop, said, yeah, you know, can I have some money returned back? They used to just turn around and be able to give you cash in hand. Nowadays, we're trying to do it back by credit card or debit card. You've got to have that on you. Now, you don't really need to have that on you in the Bitcoin world. You can just go in and say, hey, my address is Joel@Metanet.id. And they will go, okay, yeah, brilliant, I'll just send it to you that. And they can also check, if I've done my shopping through them with my alias, they can check that I brought the item on the receipt. They can quickly check and go, boom, yeah, they can check the date and time and stamp if I brought in the receipt. Or if I could go in and with the same app and say, look, here's a receipt, like money buttons are, a foundation example of that. And then afterwards, once they've seen that you brought it, it becomes that much easier to actually give you the funds back. In a Bitcoin world, all they need is your alias. And a lot of people, there's been a lot of, well, not a lot, there's been a bit of concern about, oh no, everyone's going to be able to know everyone on chain. They're going to see every single identity, and there's going to be big government and big brother going, oh, we can see everyone now. But one of the key things about aliases and Paymail is that it uses a single address, well, single target, we could say, and then underneath that, there's rotating addresses. So, yes, you are identified, but underneath that, you still retain a bit of privacy. And which brings me on to the whole anonymous versus privacy, which I won't go on about for long because I'm sure everyone here knows the difference. Anonymousness is not private. Two different things. Pseudonymous is what Bitcoin and Metanet is, which is private and transparent. With privacy and transparency, you can work underneath the law. Anonymous coins do not work. Craig's gone on about that, which I won't go into. But yeah, anonymous coins do not work because they're outside the law. If they're outside the law, eventually it's going to get shut down. Well, the key thing about Bitcoin and the Metanet is that it works within the law. When you have identity tied to it as well, even more so. And now there's something which Craig hasn't mentioned. There's something in criminology, it's kind of like the Holy Grail, one of the Holy Grails, which is, obviously criminology is all about preventing crime and reducing crime. One of the Holy Grails in criminology is how can you copy women? In the crime rates across over the last recorded history, women have a lot lower crime rates than men. Men are just absolutely terrible, I'm afraid. It has been a long-standing thing. If you can get men to imitate women, crime will drop drastically. But it is still a goal which has been unachieved, and really, we don't know how to do it. Another Holy Grail is crime prevention. Crime prevention is, say for instance, I stick £100 on there, and there's no cameras around, there's nothing there, and Owen over here, he knows he's not going to get caught. Absolutely not. Maybe £100 might not tempt him. Maybe I'll stick £1,000 down. He might. A lot of people they have a certain measurement. If you're not going to get caught, and then there's a lot more chance you're actually going to commit a crime. That's the criminality factor of most criminals. Now, one of the things about Bitcoin and the Metanet, and especially with Alias, I mean, you can do it anyway, that you can trace and track everyone on the Metanet. On Bitcoin, you can track an address and you get location points. And as Craig's also pointed out, Tor is not anonymous. What putting aliases and names on the Metanet and Bitcoin does is increases its usage for individuals and businesses. Governments can track people anyway. And if you make something anonymous, they're going to forcibly track things. But if you make things private and you just go, hey, it's just individuals and businesses trading, and we've all got our aliases, we've all got our names, but if there's criminal activity happening and the police want to come along and say, we think there's like tons of bad heroin and crack cocaine going through here, can we investigate? And you can go, yeah, sure, here you go, have a look. And you provide them the access. That's called transparency. And then we have privacy and transparency. All together is synonymous. Now, going back to the criminology thing, crime prevention, if people know they are going to get caught because you're using the internet and Metanet, and everyone is generally using, you don't have to ID yourself, by the way. It is a protocol. You can still use Bitcoin separately than using like an alias paymail. Anyway, so if most people actually do use an alias paymail, and even if like a small percentage don't, and then when there is potential criminals coming along to the Metanet and Bitcoin, and they're saying, oh no, wait a second, you're meaning I can't sell like tons of heroin from Japan to here, or get involved with really bad crimes, and then they are far less likely to get involved if they know they are definitely going to get caught. And this is crime prevention, part of identity. Right, moving on to the business use cases. There's actually tons of stuff I could talk about identity, but I'm trying to be concise and condense it. So if there's any of this you want to pick up with me afterwards, just grab me afterwards. Going on to business use cases, I've already mentioned receipts. Refunds. Refunds in the case of for all businesses is just, it's a massive gaping hole. If they spend a lot of money on refund departments, if you've ever popped into like Marks and Spencer's, the big shopping places, they've got whole sections for it. Just imagine if they could just replace all of that with one staff who just goes, oh yeah, it's really easy, there you go, done. That's saving money for businesses. That's another key thing which Craig's always said. Bitcoin isn't about making money by sitting on it and watching it go up. It's about using it. When you use it properly, then you make profit with efficiency. And you save money left and right. We'll go on to receipts. Receipts using I don't know how many people here have been using receipts in their op returns.
Me.
Yay. One person. Oh, two. Yay.
Yeah. I have a client in Australia now.
Brilliant. So this is what we really need to spread, because using receipts in the op return is legally enforceable. In e-money licensing law in Europe, UK, and most of the world, e-licensing laws, as long as the signatures are attached, not SegWit, screw SegWit, as long as the signatures are attached properly and there's a chain, and then that is upholdable in the court of law. So if you brought something off someone, even if it's like a really expensive thing and it's in the return in the receipt, and it's important that it references it properly, and that's referencing what you brought and detailing what you brought, and then that is enforceable. If that person then turns around and says, oh no, you didn't buy this car off me, you could go to a court and say, look, it's all here, it's enforceable. And also, if they've used their alias and their paymail, and you've insisted they've used their own alias and paymail, you can then prove that you brought it off them. You sent them the money. That person has identified themselves. So not only is it preventing criminals from coming on-chain and committing crimes, it's preventing people on-chain from committing crimes. Even if they're legit and get a little bit tempted, oh, I might sell you that dodgy car, you're never going to get back to me. Well, you will.
Joel,